How's everybody doing? My name is Mr. Moss.
I'm Mr. Levine.
So today we're going to be talking about how to answer an open response question. Now, for some of you in some of your English classes have actually probably already started to cover this sort of material, but we said to ourselves, this is an extremely important skill to develop. So we want you to be working on that in your social studies classes as well. So why though? Why? Why are we doing this? Well, the biggest complaint that we oftentimes have with writing, we always hear the same complaint. It's always the same complaint.
I don't know how to start my writing.
What do I do? Where do I begin? Where do I start? Well, whether it's a narrative that you need to write or an argument, opinion piece, starting a piece of writing can be challenging. We understand that. So, hopefully, this strategy is going to help you start your writing and get you on your way. So, we're going to go through the process. You're going to usually have a graphic organizer that looks something like this. It's going to look something like this. And over here, let's make it a little bit bigger so you can see. You can see over here, it's the RACES format to help you write strong paragraphs. So let's now go through the RACES format in order to help us write the strong paragraph.
All right. So the first part of RACES is the R, which is restate the question. So anytime anyone assigns you a writing piece, whether it is in a classroom or for a newspaper, they will ask you to answer a question. So the example that we're going to use for this exercise is, who is the greatest athlete of all time? With this strategy, you're going to turn that question into your first sentence. So if you look at the bottom of the slide, we have the example that states, for years, many people have debated who is the greatest athlete of all time. It is time to settle that debate.
Okay. So now we're going to be moving on to the A for RACES, which is answer the question. Now that you have restated the question, you need to provide the reader with your answer. So your answer should be not limited to the greatest athlete of all time is Tom Brady. Tom Brady, greatest athlete of all time?
I would say so.
That's up for debate. We can talk about that later.
We'll
But
get to it.
we'll say it is Tom Brady. So here you want to tell the reader that you have concluded that the Tom Brady is the greatest athlete of all time. So here's our example of answering the question. Tom Brady is the greatest athlete of all time because he has won many football games, set numerous career records, and is still playing football at an age that is 17 years longer than the average football player. Oh my goodness. He's 44 years old?
44.
Oh, wow. Okay. So we have answered the question there. Now we're going to move on to the next one.
The next part is the C in RACES, which stands for cite evidence. So now that you've provided the reader with reasons, you need to show the reader the facts to prove your reasons. So you got to back it up. Before you made your decision of who the greatest athlete was, you most likely gathered your facts. But how do you add in those facts without it looking awkward? So we have a few sentence frames that you could use to introduce this evidence. So in the text, blank, it states, according to blank, it states. For example, the text states, so in our example that we're going to share with you of us citing evidence, it goes like this. According to Football Reference, which is an online football website with stats and information, according to Football Reference, Tom Brady has thrown over 600 career touchdowns and has thrown over 80,000 passing yards. Furthermore, Tom Brady has won 7 Super Bowl championships total with the New England Patriots and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay, so we have provided our evidence. Is that good enough, Mr. Levine? I can just provide my evidence?
It can't just be hanging there without something else.
No. So now, having evidence is great, but showing the reader that you understand the evidence is even better. So this is where explain your evidence comes in, the E portion. So we need to explain to the reader why Tom Brady throwing all those touchdowns and passing for all those yards, along with winning all of those titles, makes him the greatest of all time. This is where your personality really gets to shine. Sort of like Mr. Levine and I on a regular basis. That's how it is. So we see some sentence frames that might help out. As the reader can see, this shows, this evidence illustrates. From this excerpt of the text, it is apparent that. We now see our example. This evidence illustrates how no other football player has come close to Brady's passing accomplishments. Also, no NFL team has as many championships as Tom Brady. But we said greatest athlete of all time. So this is where we got to take it a step further. Even basketball superstar legend, Michael Jordan is a ring behind Tom Brady's championship total. Wild. So now
we get to the S of races, which is summarizing your argument. So you can't just leave the reader hanging, just like you can't leave your evidence hanging without an explanation, right? You don't just want to end it abruptly, which means just end it very suddenly. So remind them why they should believe you when it comes to your argument, right? Really send home that convincing sort of message. Think of your favorite movie and how it would change if they didn't wrap up the story at the end. So these sentence stems should help you start your last sentence. In conclusion, as the reader can see, therefore, thus. So our example is, in conclusion, there's only one greatest athlete of all time. His name is Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr., also known as Tom Brady.
All right. So if you would like to see this in full, as to how we restated the question, answered the question, cited evidence, explained our evidence, and summarized our argument, you can pause it. You can take a look at the video right over here. And lastly, to wrap it up, writing can seem difficult.
As anything can be without the right tools, right? If you go paint a shed, but you don't have paint, you don't have brushes, it's going to be really tough to paint that shed.
So you want to make sure that you are using the strategy to help you lay out your paragraphs and prove to the reader that you are an expert in the particular topic you're writing about. Everybody, have a wonderful day. If you have any questions, let us know.